Once again, it's on. You know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome, everyone, to episode 39 of the Tristain on Sports Show Toss. It is your main man, T-Squared, Tristain Thomas, your friendly neighborhood. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's get into it the way we like to get into it, and that is with State of the State, where I talk to you about the state of sports in the state of Wisconsin. Now, let's start off with the Milwaukee Brewers, who came off of a weekend series against the Washington Nationals. They won the series 2-1 after that rain delay debacle. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, the Brewers went into the 8th inning, grabbed a lead. Then the rain delay came. They were up 3-1. 2 hours later, it was a long 2-hour rain delay. Now, I stuck with them, right? I stuck with it. I watched that entire game, watched all the vignettes and things of that nature while I was on my long Labor Day weekend vacation getaway down on Lake Geneva. Beautiful area, yearly tradition there. Stuck with them. Waited for all the rain delay programming to come over, and they came back. I'm like, all right, let's finish this game. Let's finish strong. You got a 3-1 lead. And they subsequently went and blew that 3-1 lead, ending up losing 5-4 in that game, but bounced back the very next day with the 9-4 win. And just yesterday, Labor Day, the Brewers started a humongous series against the Chicago Cubs, the division-leading Chicago Cubs. This is an opportunity for them to make some hay, pick up some ground against these guys. You could pick up a full 3 games. That would be huge. That would be huge. Brewers won it. They won that game yesterday, 4-3 in a thriller. It came down to the bottom of the 9th inning. Bases loaded, full of Brewers. Christian Yelich, who was the NL Player of the Week, or as the Brewers Twitter will tell you, the NL MVP of the week. I guess they're trying to put his name in the conversation for National League MVP, as it should be. He's been fantastic all year long. A career high in home runs with 27. A career high in RBI with over 80. I believe it's 82, 83 RBI. He's been fantastic. I believe he's the league leader in hitting. He's definitely having an MVP caliber season. Came down to him, bases loaded. They get the run home. Win that game. Huge game. They sit 4 games behind the Cubs now for the division lead. They sit a full game and a half ahead of the St. Louis Cardinals, also within their very own division, for that first wild card spot. So if the playoffs were to end today, it would be the Brewers at home at Miller Park, with the Cardinals coming into town, 1 game to move on in the playoffs. I think this is a much more realistic outcome. I think they will end up winning the wild card. I don't believe they will chase the Cubs down, even though you still have multiple games remaining against those guys, and your schedule is a bit more friendly as opposed to some of the other teams. You have a lot more off days. You have a few teams that aren't playing as well, but would love to go and ruin your season. Again, the Brewers are not assured of a playoff spot. I mean, these races are very, very tight. Yes, you're 4 behind the Cubs for the division, but you're also only up a game and a half over the Cardinals for that first wild card spot. You're essentially 2 games away from being out of the playoffs. That's a scary thought. And last week on this very program, right here on Toss, I pleaded with David Stearns. The waiver claim trade deadline was nearing. It's on Friday, August 31st. I pleaded with David Stearns, hey, if you have a move in you, you need to pull that trigger now. You need to do it now. I pleaded with the Brewers as a team. Hey, if you have a hot streak in you, you need to torch it now. You need to go and start playing that type of baseball that had you in first place for a majority of the season right now. You need to find that, recapture that, and start playing that way from now until the end of your season. And hopefully that's through the World Series, but we're a long way away from that still. And it looks like they're putting it together. The Brewers are starting to play better. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games, a far cry from the 5-5 that they were sitting here on this program last week. I told you about that. And David Stearns did, in fact, make moves. He makes a trade with the Washington Nationals while the Brewers were still in Washington for left-handed starting pitcher Gio Gonzalez, a guy who a few seasons ago won 21 games, was unquestioned one of the better pitchers in all the National League. He's been roughed up a little bit this year, has an ERA over 4, Not quite the same, but it's a starting arm. It's a guy with experience. It's a guy who's won in this league. It's a guy who's been to the playoffs. I think it's a pretty decent pickup. Now, where they decide to put him in that rotation, I don't know. I don't even know if he'll go into that rotation. They continue to give Junior Guerra starts. And for the most part, he had pitched pretty well, but as of late, he's kind of struggled. Zach Davies just came back, started the game yesterday against the Cubs, had a very good start. Very good start. Only gave up 1 run over the course of 5 innings. 7 strikeouts. He looks like the Zach Davies that we all know and love. You know, that 17-game winner Zach Davies that we all remember. So are you going to find room for Gio Gonzalez in the starting rotation? I don't know. Maybe he'll be an arm that could go extended innings in the bullpen. We all know Counsell loves guys that could go longer innings. He does it to Jeffress. He does it to Hader. He does it to Corbin Burns. He likes those long relief guys. So I think right now that's probably going to be his role. Stearns wasn't done. Stearns also went and acquired Curtis Granderson. This is a guy who's going to bolster your bench. This guy has played in postseason, has had success in postseason, has had success throughout his entire career. He's already on a record of saying, hey, I'm just a piece of the puzzle. I don't want to come in and mess up any kind of chemistry. I'm just a piece of the puzzle. That is a great guy to have on your bench. He's going to have great at-bats. He gets on base. He can knock it out the park for you. I think David Stearns and company heard my pleas last week right here on this program. If you got any moves in you, you need to make them. If this team has a hot streak in them, we need to see it. From here on out, your playoff lives depend on it. So you got another game against the Cubs, game 2 in this 3-game set. I believe you still have, I don't know, I believe it's 3 to 5 games left against the Cubs. I mean, you have an opportunity. Even though I said I think wild card is a little bit more feasible for them, you still have an opportunity within this division. You have to play well against the Cubs. Obviously, you have to beat them. You have to handle your business against those guys. You have to hope that other teams handle their business against those guys. But the thing is, you can only control what you can control. And what you can control is your effort and your play when you face those guys and every other team that you face. Brewers have been getting in the habit of winning series. That's exactly what you want. It's just unfortunate on Saturday, on a day where the Cubs lost and the Cardinals lost, they could not take advantage of that because they lost themselves. That would have been huge. But when you go head-to-head with the team that is ahead of you, and you got another team within your division that is pursuing you for a playoff spot, these head-to-head wins are huge. They're huge. So great win for the Brewers in a game that felt a lot like postseason. You hope that continues, that they find ways to win. Again, huge series with the Cubs. Game 2 tonight. We'll see what they do. 73 in their last 10. Stearns has made the acquisitions. The calendar has turned to September. It's crunch time. Your playoff lives depend on you playing great baseball. We need to see more of that. Continuing on State of the State here on Toss, we have to talk about the Badgers of Madison. The Wisconsin Badgers had their first game last Friday against Western Kentucky, and it was an absolute dismantling at the hands of the Badgers, 34-3. There was some things to like. There were some things to dislike. Now, it was the first game of the season. Everything is not going to be perfect, even against a team where some people feel was a little bit sub competitive. I think the Badgers just kind of made them look that way. There were things to like offensively. Jonathan Taylor, as I said last week, he was going to do his thing. He's not sneaking up on everybody. Everyone knows he's good. Everyone has tape on him. And he played very well. 145 yards rushing. 2 long touchdown runs. Showing that game-breaking speed, showing that strength to keep the pile moving. The bad, he had a fumble. You have to have that ball security. You know, you're going to have the rock in your hands quite a bit. You got to be able to take care of the football. If you can't, you're just going to give the other team chances. And as the games get bigger, as the season goes later, you cannot afford to give teams chances. Can't afford to give them chances like that. So things to like, things to dislike. Alex Hornibrook passed for 257 yards, threw for a couple of touchdown scores himself, but he still is overthrowing wide open receivers. He only completed 58% of his passes. This is against a Western Kentucky squad. Can you imagine if he goes up against one of the better defenses in the Big Ten? That's something that has to improve. That's something that just has to go up. So there's things to like and there's things to dislike. Again, Hornibrook is that one of those guys that are just going to have to step up big time. It's got to be better than 58% completion passing. The 257 yards are nice. The 2 passing touchdown scores are nice. But that 58% pass completion, the missing of wide open receivers throughout the field, that can't happen. That cannot happen. You cannot consistently overthrow guys or underthrow guys. And that's what he did on Friday. Again, as the games get bigger, as the lanes and the season gets later, these moments are going to amplify. They're going to magnify. And those passes that you need to make are going to be huge. And you have to make them. You absolutely have to make them. So again, some things to like, some things to dislike on offense. On defense, also things to like, things to dislike. I think there was more like than there was dislike. Those young corners were tested. Again, this defense lost 7 guys. A couple of their defensive front guys were not playing due to injury. So you had some injuries there. You lost some guys to being seniors and going to the NFL. But this defense stepped up. This defense showed that they were up to the task. This Badgers defense allowed 305 total yards. 41 of them were in garbage time. So they really allowed about 260 some odd yards if you take away those 41 yards that they picked up on a chunk play in garbage time. You only give up 3 points. You only allow Western Kentucky to go 5 for 16 on third down. I say that's really good work by that defense. But again, it's the first game. It's Western Kentucky. You don't want to poo-poo those guys, but at the same time, it's week 1. I don't think anyone felt that those guys could come into Camp Randall and win that game. The Badgers wouldn't handle their business as they should. So now you got New Mexico State on Saturday. Again, another game that people feel the Badgers should be able to go and handle business in. As do I. We'll see if Hornibrook is a little bit better. We'll see if Jonathan Taylor can hold on to that football. Taiwan Deal is a great back as well. He's been spelling Jonathan Taylor as he was last season. Yeah, he's going to be a big factor on that offense as well. He's going to be able to keep Jonathan Taylor fresh. So when they're stacking the box against him and you bring in Taiwan Deal, change your base back, I mean, you got 2 guys you have to deal with who you don't really want to go and tackle in the fourth quarter because they're going to wear you down, especially with that big offensive line. So a lot to like, some things to clean up and work on. Overall, great win for the Badgers. Again, dismantling Western Kentucky 34-3. You got New Mexico on Saturday. We'll see if these guys can continue to get better as the season gets later. Let's go to Green Bay, Wisconsin here on State of the State on Toss and talk about the Green Bay Packers. It is Bears week. Folks, preseason is over. Packers finished the preseason 2-2. That's of no consequence. They've made some roster moves. Some of them may be a little bit shocking. Guys being released like Ripkowski. Kumerow makes the squad even though he has a shoulder injury. They subsequently put him on IR. Robert Tonyan, the tight end who showed some pretty good play in the regular season, they keep him. So some surprises on the last 53-man roster. But it's Bears week now. Bears come in to Lambeau Field. Home opener, season opener, Sunday night football, prime time. You're the only game on at that time. All eyes are going to be on you at historic Lambeau Field. There is nothing like a season opener at Lambeau Field, let me tell you. I've been to season openers in other places, but there is nothing like a season opener at Lambeau Field. It's just a special feeling. It's a welcome back to football, but that's just for me. I still get goosebumps every time I go to Lambeau, and I'm there quite a bit. So it's special. It's game opener, and it's against your rival. And your rival made a huge move. Your rival made a move that many Packers fans and many pundits felt you were in prime position to make with the assets that you had to play with. The Chicago Bears acquired Khalil Mack from the Oakland Raiders for first-round draft picks and third-round draft picks and fifth-round draft picks, all of which the Packers had. The biggest difference between the Packers offer and the Bears offer was the fact the Bears had or were more willing to sign Khalil Mack to the biggest deal for a defensive player in NFL history. 6-year, $141 million contract extension for Khalil Mack with $90 million guaranteed. The dude got paid. But you know who else got paid on the Packers last week? Aaron Rodgers got paid on the Packers last week. $103 million guaranteed. Do you really think the Packers were going to sign Khalil Mack to a deal like that after giving Rodgers his bag? It wasn't going to happen. And that was the real caveat on this entire deal. If a team was going to give up first round picks and third round picks and later round picks, essentially mortgaging their future for this guy, they want this guy to be on their roster long term and not just be a rental, which is exactly what it would have been for teams who didn't have the cap space to sign him to a long-term deal, because people forget that's the original reason why he was holding out. It's the reason why he and John Gruden rarely spoke. John Gruden is essentially running things out there. It's not really Reggie McKenzie. John Gruden got $100 million guaranteed as a coach. Been out of the game for a decade. Mark Davis is allowing his influence to run this franchise, then not Reggie McKenzie. And Reggie McKenzie's come on the record. The plan was never to trade Khalil Mack. But at the same time, you really weren't trying to discuss a deal with this guy who was absolutely devastating on defense. This is a guy who ruins offensive plans week in and week out. This is a guy you needed on your defense because your offense regressed last season, and it had a lot more to do with than just Derek Carr's injury. Had a lot more to do with it than that. Now, essentially, you don't have a real true defense or any real, let's just be clear, you don't have the type of talent Khalil Mack had on defense anymore. That guy was essentially your defense. I can't sit here, and I'll be honest with you, I can't sit here and name anyone else of note on that Raiders defense. I can't. It was Khalil Mack and everyone else. And you just lost them. So now it's just everybody else. He was a guy who could get to the quarterback for sacks, but also cause pressures. Make that quarterback make mistakes. Give your cornerbacks opportunities at the football. And now that's gone. So I don't know what the hell you're going to do. The Bears now have him. They're going to bring him along. They want to be aggressive, but they want to be smart. He's in a Vic Fangio system, a Don Capers disciple who brings pressure. Aaron Rodgers has to deal with this guy at least 2 times a season now. And Packers fans are upset everywhere. And it's not everyone, but a lot of them are just absolutely livid that Goot would not go for this trade. Why? Really? Like, I get his talent would just really change the outlook on this defense. I get that. Khalil Mack is a very special talent. You don't have very many defensive talents like his around the league. I get it. Thinking about him on that defensive line with the likes of a Nick Perry and a Clay Matthews, a Mo Wilkerson, a Mike Daniels, a Kenny Clark, being up in that defensive front, man, it just makes you lick your chops. You're really going to be able to get after the quarterback then. So I get why you're mad as far as not being able to acquire that kind of talent. But to say that because you didn't get Khalil Mack, your Super Bowl hopes are now gone is absolutely asinine and ridiculous. It's so far-reaching that I'm surprised your arms didn't fall out of your sockets. It's such a reach to say that because they did not acquire this one guy, they are no longer Super Bowl contenders. Number one, you're a Super Bowl contender as long as you got number 12 on the field. As long as number 12 is there, you're always a Super Bowl contender. And this team, as currently constructed, is no different. Vegas feels the same way. They gave them the sixth best odds to go and win the Super Bowl. But really think about this. As I said before, the Green Bay Packers were not going to sign Khalil Mack for that much cash. Even if they had not signed Aaron Rodgers to that huge bag they gave him, they still wouldn't have gone and paid that price for Khalil Mack. Just weren't going to do it. Number two, think about the draft pick compensation. If you're the Raiders and you just lost one of the great defensive talents, or just you didn't lose them, you traded them, which was dumb. You just traded one of the great defensive talents in all of the NFL. You have to find a way to rebuild that defense and get people who are comparable. Now, there aren't a lot of Khalil Macks out there. There aren't a lot of Aaron Donalds. There aren't a lot of Von Millers out there. There are not a lot of J.J. Watts. There are not a lot of great defensive talents out there like that can cause that big of an impact on the game. There just aren't. And those are defensive players that can actually take over the game. We've seen this happen before. You have to find people who are comparable and can combine to do the things that he did. Even though it's going to be difficult, you have to find great players that are going to fit within your defensive system and go and produce. They may not produce at the level in which he did. Again, he's a very special talent, but you have to rebuild it. So you have to get the highest draft picks possible to go and get the best players available. Whose picks are going to do that for you? The Packers are going to be far better than the Bears this year. Khalil Mack or not. Khalil Mack being on the squad now makes no difference on where the Bears finish, as far as where they're at against the Green Bay Packers. Packers are going to be better than them. I think everybody feels that. The Bears are building something really good, but I still think they're a few pieces away. They may be a season or two away. But their picks are going to be higher than the Packers picks, because the Packers are, and this is just my projection, are going to make the playoffs, and they're going to have a relative good run in the playoffs, which means their draft picks are going to be far lower than a team that doesn't make the playoffs. And as currently constructed, I do not have the Bears making the playoffs. You sunk $51.5 million just this offseason on a wide receiver, Allen Robinson, on a rookie, Fuller, and now on Khalil Mack. That's $51.5 million sunk into three guys. One of them's never played in the NFL. The other one can't stay on the field in the NFL. And the other one is just now getting to a team where he has to learn a brand new defensive system. I don't have them making the playoffs, not this season. Matt Nagy is going to do a lot of good things offensively. Vic Fangio is going to keep doing his thing defensively. The Bears have one of the more underrated defenses the past few seasons because of Fangio. Just the Bears' offense was a mess. They're going to finish far lower in the regular season standings than will the Green Bay Packers, which means their draft picks are going to be higher than the Packers. So that's the only way you're going to be able to find someone that could do things comparable to Khalil Mack if you're the Raiders. So for everybody that's bitching and moaning and crying that they didn't get Khalil Mack, get over it. It's over. He's a Bear. He's the highest paid defensive player in NFL history. Congratulations to him. Wish him all the success in the world, except those 2 times against the Packers. You have to focus on who's on this team and how this team is going to get better, how they're going to win. You can't go out there and sign every great defensive talent. Was he available? Yes. Did you make an offer? Yes. Your offer wasn't strong enough. Raiders went elsewhere. So let's not sit here and act like they didn't try to get into the fray to get him. They did. If it was Ted Thompson, he would have sat on his hands. Then he really would have been pissed. So for you guys to be pissed about this is ridiculous. It's time to stop it. You have the roster you're going to compete with in place right now. It does not have Khalil Mack. Get over it. Packers are still a good team. That defense is going to continue to grow over the regular season. They'll get better. Those coverage guys will get better. Aaron Rodgers is healthy. This offense is going to be explosive. So stop with the crying. Stop with the complaining because you didn't get a player. Goot tried. They didn't like his offer. It's much better than what we have had in Ted Thompson, who would probably not have tried. Count your blessings. Packers open up the season against the Bears. Sunday Night Football at Lambeau, 7:20 Central Standard Time. Be there. Or be at home in front of your TV with your snacks, which sounds like a great idea, but being at Lambeau Field is much better. So that's the state of the state. Brewers 7-3 in their last 10 games, beat the Cubs on Labor Day, picked up a game against those guys, picked up a game over the Cardinals, 1.5 games up in that final or for that first wild card spot. Stearns, not through tinkering with the team, picks up Gio Gonzalez and Curtis Granderson. Guys with playoff experience, veterans. Can never have too much veteran leadership in that locker room. Stretch run is here. Calendar has turned to September. Your playoff lives depend on you playing well. The Badgers dismantled Western Kentucky 34-3. There were things to like both offensively and defensively. But it was the first game of the season. There's time to grow. And the Green Bay Packers didn't get Khalil Mack. So what? They still have a Super Bowl type team in place right now as long as number 12 is healthy. They open up their season against the Bears Sunday Night Football, 7:20 p.m. Central Standard Time. Coming up on Toss, we have to run the toss sweep, and Colin Kaepernick is back in the news. Not like he ever left, but his impact is going to be felt around the world as some people want to cut it off of them. We'll discuss that more. Toss sweep coming up next. Toss Nation Media is your home for the Toss brand of sports. That's this very program, the Tristain on Sports Show Toss. That's the blog, the Toss blog that accompanies this show, and the season premiere of Quick Toss coming up very, very soon. All that and more can be found only on TossNationMedia.com. Welcome back to Toss, everyone. It is your friendly neighborhood T-Squared. Thanks for joining us and sticking with us. It's time for us to run the toss sweep. Colin Kaepernick, we all know, he was a great quarterback with the San Francisco 49ers, took them to the Super Bowl, nearly won it in a thriller against the Ravens. Had a really stout 49ers team that he was really the face of with that great defense. He provided a spark on offense. And then he got hurt. Wasn't really healthy, was losing muscle mass, got benched for Blaine Gabbert, but then he got healthy, regained that muscle mass, came in, played well, overgained Blaine Gabbert, became the starter once again, 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in his final season with the Niners, decided, look, they were going to cut him anyway, so he decided to opt out of his deal. A lot of people won't care about what he did on the field as far as playing. They will still try to trash what he did as far as being a player as if he was trash, which he wasn't. Anybody who looks at the games, looks at the tape, knows that he could still play in this league. He proved that. They only look at what he did on the field before the game, which was kneel during the national anthem. Now, people will sit here and try to make you believe he was protesting the national anthem. He was not protesting the national anthem. He was protesting during the national anthem. There is a huge difference. What was he protesting? Police brutality and racial injustices everywhere. This is a real issue. Since then, he's decided to go and sue the NFL for collusion, which, if you look at it, it seems like there is some collusion, and the case is being proven. Why is he not on an NFL roster? Look at some of these awful backup quarterbacks that have jobs over a guy who's proven he could still play. I think that speaks for itself. Himself and Eric Reed have been unfairly ostracized and blackballed from the league because of their protests during the national anthem against police brutality and racial injustice. Both of those guys, both those talented athletes who could still contribute to a football team in the National Football League, are without jobs in the National Football League, and it is a damn injustice. People will only remember him as the guy who kneeled during the national anthem, when in actuality it's much deeper than that. And now his message is going to be spread even further as the official apparel maker for the NFL, Nike, has made Colin Kaepernick the face of the 30th anniversary of their Just Do It campaign. This is a campaign they started to roll out slowly. They had many different pairs of shoes that had the Just Do It branding all over them. This was something that they started out roll very, very slowly. And now he is the face of that campaign on its 30th anniversary. The very 3 words that Nike has built an empire on. Now you got people who don't like Kaepernick because they try to brainwash others and hijack the conversation and say that this protest was against military. It was anti-American and everything else. They're actually cutting the swooshes, the Nike swooshes off of their Nike clothing that they're wearing. I seen a dumb guy who was a sound guy for Big and Rich, who this country group, and everybody remembers that song, "We're Coming to Your City." It was really popular on college football shows for a while, and then it fizzled out. You know, those guys. John Rich, he decided to tweet out some garbage, saying that their sound guy cut off the tops of his socks. It cut off because that's where the swoosh was. It's just stupid because Nike already has your money. But, you know, whatever. If you want to go and destroy your clothes and look like an absolute fool, then you go right ahead. He further doubled down on that tweet, saying the minute that Kaepernick wore those pig cop socks, that was the end of the conversation for him. And that is the problem with this, because Kaepernick came out and he did, in fact, apologize for that, said it was not the right step, was not the right thing to do. Apologized for that years ago. But the conversation of police brutality and racial injustice should not end over a pair of socks. What people fail to realize, at least people like that, those closed-minded, dumbass people like that, fail to realize is Kaepernick has respect for the military. He has respect for Americans and America. He has respect for police. What he does not have respect for are the police who continuously get away with murdering black people. And that's what it is. Murder. They get placed on paid administrative leave. They go through this whole investigative process only to keep their jobs and not be convicted of a damn thing. You see people like Randy Moss wearing the tie with all the names of people who were unjustly killed, whether it be by someone else, like Trayvon Martin, whether it be by the police after obeying all rules like Philando Castile. This is a real issue, and it cannot be wished away. It cannot be swept away just because a guy wore pig socks. People are being killed. People are being raked over the coals in the justice system simply because of the color of their skin. I have to wonder every single day I step out of those doors and go do what I do. Whether it be go to work, whether it be go run to the grocery store, whether go to the gas station, whether or not I'm going to be unfairly pulled over, whether or not I'm going to come back home to my wife and my child. See, this is something that's very real. This is something that people have to deal with on a real, regular, everyday basis. There's going to come a point in my life where my son gets older and I have to sit there and explain to him that because if you are going to get pulled over because of your skin color, you're going to be harassed because of your skin color by the police. And you can obey their every command, and there is still a chance you will not come home to me and your mother until you know how that feels, until you have to have a conversation like that, until you live life like that with that worry. You cannot tell someone how to protest. You cannot tell someone where to protest. And you are not allowed to have a seat at the table with hatred and bigotry in this conversation. I applaud you, Colin Kaepernick. I applaud you, Eric Reed. I applaud everyone who is fighting this fight against police brutality and racial injustice, because there are people who live with this every single day. It is real. And there are people who equate the entire conversation and decide to shut themselves off from trying to make things better over a pair of socks. I'll just leave it with the words of my father, a former Navy SEAL. I love my country, but I'm also disappointed in it. We're allowed to love something and be both disappointed in it too. This is Toss. All right, y'all, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This was episode 39 of the Tristain on Sports Show Toss. Thank y'all so much for sticking with a brother, for rocking with a brother. Hey, Island, I see y'all. I see the DMs. I see the love at the mailbox at tossnationmedia.com. Tristan.Thomas at tossnationmedia.com. Hey, that is the name of the website too, tossnationmedia.com. That's tossnationmedia.com. You know my social media handles, you know them, but I'll give them to you again anyway. At V20double, that's at V, the number 2, the number 0, the word double on both Instagram and Twitter. And Wednesday nights, you know what's going down. We got Wednesday nights on lock. You can catch myself and best-selling author Professor P on the Home Court Sports Show, Wednesday nights, 7 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, only on Home Court Sports Facebook page. That is Home Court Sports Facebook.com/Home Court Sports. Or you can also catch it on the Blue Jeans page, which is Professor P's page. Or you can also catch it on my page, Tristan Thomas. Go ahead and look for us Wednesday nights, 7 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. But as I said before, it's time for me to get on out of here. It's T Squared, Tristan Thomas, reminding all of you that I'm the one and only, and so are you. Embrace it. Until next week, so long from Toss.